Hey guys, this is K-Drive. I wanted to do a rewatch of the current world record for Afterimage restricted any percent in the advanced difficulty because there's not been, I guess, verbal documentation or written documentation of the changes the route has undergone in quite a while. We've made notes, Robbo and I, on speedrun.com describing all the techniques and stuff, as well as different components that are necessary to understand for the any percent run. I've also made a video giving a tutorial on any percent. However, the one that I made in 2024 is slightly out of date. So hopefully this can serve as a decent replacement for that. It's hard to make those kinds of videos because they take quite a bit of time, but at least with like a kind of rewatch, I can go over things a bit more with a bit more scrutiny, and also hopefully clear up anything that is mostly legacy knowledge for people that are relatively new to the run. So yeah, that's what this video will be for. Hope you enjoy it. I'll be pausing very, very frequently to discuss things. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be like just a steady watch through. This will definitely be a lot longer than the 30 minutes that the run itself took. So please keep that in mind while watching. As we're getting into like the early part of the run, I just want to mention that the reason why I run it on advanced, and I'm sure Robbo can speak for himself on this as well, but the reason I personally run on advanced is that I feel that it represents the game in the best light. It's the difficulty that we ran on when we first started getting to the speedrun of this game, which was in 2023. And when normal difficulty was added, it was definitely nice for allowing for runners that were newer to the game to be onboarded to what's otherwise going to be a very difficult run to get started with, right? Where things just kill you out of nowhere if you're playing armorless. But once you're kind of more comfortable and adept with the game and its mechanics, I definitely feel like advance shows off what this game has in store. So that's why I feel like advance is the difficulty I like have more preference towards pushing, and I hope that's reflected in the run as we watch it. And also I hope that clears up for anyone that's wondering why we run at advanced. But if you're new and you're starting out, normal is definitely the best one to run on, because armless is very doable for that. So yeah, started this run, just hold the skip, and I'll point this out right now actually, might as well. But notice how I'm holding the skip using directionals on the D-pad. Like you can see here, I'm using the circle button first, but that's kind of a habit more so. But you'll see after the first hold skip, I immediately switched to doing the D-pad here. Hopefully my mouse is visible. The reason for this is sometimes with the confirm button, which you use to skip dialogue, the game will not let you use that button as a hold to skip button for a certain amount of time after you skip dialogue with that button. For whatever reason, just none of us know why. We call it the hold to skip bug. It can trigger under different circumstances, and this is just one of them. But it's really annoying because you lose lots of time when you're trying to skip dialogue, and the game doesn't let you. However, I've not found it to ever trigger when I'm using directional inputs, specifically the D-pad. So that's why a lot of the time you'll see me skipping hold to skip cutscenes with the D-pad. All right. Then the start of this run, that jump is accidental. It loses time, unfortunately, but there's not really a clean way to skip this dialogue without that happening sometimes. So here you'll notice, and again, I'm going to be pausing quite frequently, so please do bear that in mind. The movement here is very particular, actually. It might look simple, but you really want to dash relatively deep into these platforms so that you don't have to, when you drop down, you don't have to like hold left or hold right as you're like adjusting to drop down the last platform. The reason for this is that you'll see here, like I had to walk a little bit, right? This walking loses time. So you prefer to dash deeper into these platforms. So all you have to do is drop down, and then maybe you walk barely a distance and then you drop down and then dash. And ideally, you wouldn't dash in midair as you drop down because you spend more time falling, which you don't want to be doing because when you're in the air, you get only one air dash until you touch the ground. So it's much faster to just drop down, maintain that falling speed, and then do the dashes on the ground. But here you see I didn't dash deep enough, and sometimes this can be misaligned depending on how this kind of beginning goes. But the way I did this was still fine. You ideally still want to just dash just a bit deeper, But again, with how the beginning ended up, like you kind of want to dash like around where this plant is ideally. But of course, hopefully you're not spending too much time in the air while doing that. So yep. And then you see wait to the ground, wait till touching the ground to dash here. This whole like section, all these optimizations might seem like they're like relatively minor, but I've noticed my time go further down with just adding itsy bitsy optimizations. The more and more we play this game, and when I first started running, I was oftentimes getting like 101 wolf times or 1 minute flat, or even 59s if it was a good wolf split with the correct laser pattern at the end, which we'll talk about when we get there. But I do think with like all the things I'm going to be talking about and breaking down right now, 56, even 55 can become possible consistently if you're playing up to your maximal level, even on advanced difficulty. So here, not much to say. These gaps are super annoying. Unfortunately, it's just fastest to just walk until you reach those gaps and then dash over them. You don't want to like dash and then accidentally fall down, because then you'll lose time. And for these spikes right here, there's a backup if you miss the dash at this edge of the platform, because it's really finicky. A lot of the time you end up accidentally coyote dashing, which is fine. That means you kind of dashed a little late. But if you dash slightly later than the coyote timing allows, then you might start falling, and you obviously don't want to hit the spikes. So to fix that, you just do a little air float with the air sword attack, and it'll let you barely skip over this gap as long as you're still holding left. All right, and then we're going to start talking about this right now. This is an optimization that I started incorporating, I think, early in 2025, something like that. We don't have a formal name for it. On the document, I think I called it something like jump cut. It's not the best name to describe it, to be honest, but the whole idea is that you're shortening the amount of air hover time that you have when you do a jump or even a weapon float. By specifically, you have to do the air attack while your jump button from your jump is still being held. And you notice that on the inputs here, which is why I like having inputs up when I'm doing runs. You notice that the jump button was pressed, and while the jump button was still being held, the attack button, which is square, was pressed. So this allows you to, it might be hard to notice in this exact jump, but this allows you to jump or spend ever so slightly less time in the air for your jump. And you'll notice it, especially for ledges that are above you when you're jumping. You'll kind of snap toward that ledge a little faster, and that's what we call ledge grab. This platforming is very important in early game, where you otherwise don't really have clean ways to optimize the platforming, because we don't have access to dive kick yet. And the same goes for when you're trying to do an air dash. You want to air dash at a height where the game will kind of lift you up into where the height of the platform that you're jumping to is. It's the same concept when you do that for the ledge grab jumps or like the jump cuts. The thing with those air dashes is that the leniency for them is a lot lower than it is for the jump cut specifically. So that's why it's important to leverage the jump cut ledge grabs, because they're a lot easier to save time with than air dashing at the right timing for the platforming where you're jumping upwards. So I want to talk about this section here just a little bit briefly. I've never found a clean way to do it. I think early on, before I started running the game, it was either Arclane or Tras Laprosse. They were walking down this platform to meet these frogs here. And I'm not sure if that's faster than dashing and then falling down, but I imagine dashing is still faster. I've just never timed it personally. And then killing these frogs is super awkward, but I think overall we've determined it to be fastest to just go ahead and kill them. Okay, and here's like the biggest point of discussion for the split. So when you drop down here, it's very important to note this. When you drop down, you want to like dash off this ledge at like the last possible moment that you can input a dash. This way, when you go to meet the wolf, it'll trigger the wolf's little like ooh, like when the wolf howls, it'll trigger that howl as early as possible and still let you be in good positioning to get some attacks in before it rushes. So just to frame advance briefly here, you see how like I'm not dashing yet, but I dashed like right at the edge. That's about where you want to dash, and then that lets you get another dash in here while the wolf is triggering while the boss fight's triggering basically. And you'll see that your inputs are locked out almost immediately after you input your dash, which basically that's optimal. Like the boss fight's already starting as you're inputting your dash, so you'll be in perfect distance. And if you mistime the dash, you'll be stuck at this kind of far away spacing from the wolf, and you won't be able to get some attacks in. Like if you mistime it, you'll be like around here instead of here, which means you probably won't be able to get in attacks as early as possible. But that's the whole idea. You want to dash at the end of this ledge, and then dashing into it doesn't lose any time. It just lets you be into the correct spacing. Sometimes, depending on the distance at where you dashed, you might not even take contact damage, but it doesn't lose any time to take contact damage. So, and then of course, crouch cancel attacking is here. I didn't talk about this in my tutorial, but we can talk about it later. Once we're done talking about this fight here. So yeah, you crouch cancel attack it. Then after you take down phase 1, obviously it transforms. This whole stuff I do here is very important. Again, I don't know if it's been mentioned or stressed properly in the other video I made, or even in documentations that's out there for learning the speedrun for this game. But anyway, in order for phase 2 to end as quickly as possible, you need to have the right spacing with respect to the boss for it to immediately do the laser pattern that instantly kills you. Otherwise, it does the rush attack, which wastes like 1.5 to 2 seconds. You don't want to see that. And losing that much time, it might seem like nothing, but when you're competing for top level times, that amount of time loss is pretty substantial, especially because early game has kind of the widest variance in time save or time loss out of most of the run, at least, especially when we get to the next split. But yeah, the spacing, the exact spacing here is fine. You don't need to stand exactly here, but I encourage you to research on your own if you're trying to learn this run, like which spacings work. But it's important to know that multiple spacings work, and you just need to stand at the right spacing with respect to the boss for it to do the laser attack pattern immediately. And it's not random. So the spacing works, and you get the laser right away. And look at that. So we got a 56, which is really good. Sometimes it'll walk forward a little bit and then do the laser. You don't lose that much time if that happens, so it's not a big deal.
Nice.
Sorry, let me turn down my volume from the video. Okay, not much to talk about here. Just standard dash movement. These tree branch sections, I think every runner I've seen does them differently. It's not a big deal how you do them. I think the main idea here is that you want to kill at least 2 of these big birds, and that'll line you up for the experience route. Although, to be honest, the experience route nowadays is pretty loose, so I don't even think killing strictly 2 big birds is required anymore, as long as you line yourself up to be eventually the correct level. Because now that we skipped resting path, the level that you're at when you get to the, or I say resting path, now that we skip most of resting path, the level that you're at when you get to resting path is going to be slightly less than what we had before, where we were able to get more talent points. So it basically, you're going to be at the correct levels where it matters most, which is against Aus for advanced difficulty. You're going to be at the correct level regardless. So I don't think this matters as much as it used to. But yeah, damage boost if you want to. I think that's fastest, to be honest, still. And then dodge these birds. They're pretty awkward to bypass quickly. I still kill this bird because we still want to be level 2 before Guider 1. So if you kill 2 big birds and then you get the echoes that are on the way, then you'll still be level 2. So you can have an extra damage for what is typically a long fight. And before we move forward, let's talk about crouch canceling here. So crouch canceling, I think, is a little misunderstood. A lot of new runners have trouble with it. The main idea is that you just want to attack, and then as soon as the attack reaches its active frame, that is, as soon as the attack connects on the enemy, you want to tap crouch for as little time as possible. And then after you've released crouch, you do your next attack. You don't press attack while you're still crouched or while you still have the down direction held. You want to tap crouch for as little time as possible, optimally 1 frame, of course. And then after you release crouch, you press the attack button again. And then once the attack connects, once it reaches active frame, then you tap crouch and then you repeat that. The same applies for sides. It's just that sides have a slightly different timing because obviously they're not as fast as the regular sword is, but the same concept applies regardless. So yeah, we kill this enemy. Notice how you can kill it with 1 sword attack and 3 scythe attacks. I think on normal you can kill it even with 2 sword attacks and 2 scythe attacks or something like that. But either way, that's how you do it. And then for this, for getting echoes in general, this echo doesn't matter for what I'm about to say, but for echoes in general, you want to press up, or rather, you want to dash and then press up as you're passing through the echo, because that'll let you waste less time like standing still while you're skipping the echo text, so that you can still be like a further distance ahead after you've finished skipping the echo text. Here you can't exactly do that because you're going to be jumping from stationary position afterwards. But for echoes going forward, you want to dash and then as you're passing through them, press up. Or alternatively, you can press up and then shortly afterwards press dash, and I think that should still work. And then for this, we have our first like proper long jump. For long jumps in general, the whole idea behind it is that you want to trigger a weapon float and then use your available air actions to reset the weapon float so that you can continue to extend your jump distance. For this particular one, you don't have many air actions. You only have an air dash and 1 weapon float. So you got to use them wisely and use them at the correct distance. But this long jump is relatively easy compared to other ones in the game. So all you do, you can just basically copy exactly what I did for this run. So it would be weapon float and then air dash. And then for this little cutscene, and I know I'm talking about it in like a tutorialized manner and not really going over the good parts about this run yet, but we'll adjust as we go along depending on how things are progressing. I know we're going super slowly right now, but again, I want to make this in depth since I haven't done a tutorial video in a while. For this, getting into this cutscene, if you've done the long jump correctly and you just keep dashing at the soonest possible time, you'll land right about at like the corner of this plank, somewhere around here. And you want to ideally dash just before the trigger, which is like invisible line, like kind of roughly here. You want to dash just before you pass through that trigger barrier so that you end up as close to her as possible after the text is skipped. So notice how I you can see that like where I dashed here, make sure that the trigger doesn't prevent me from being close before the cutscene text appears. So that way when we start, I mean, I was a little far away still, but that way when we start having to skip or start having to attack 42, YouTube's being annoying. Come on. That way when you attack, when it's time to attack, you have a bit of leeway to attack right away without having to kind of close the distance first, because that loses a little bit of time. And then for this bird, same idea, you can kill it in the same way. Ideally, you use the little jump cut as part of your attacking the bird so that you can save a little bit of time attacking this bird like I did here. I still missed 1 crouch cancel, so I unfortunately lost the time I would have saved otherwise, but that's the idea for that bird. You basically use the jump cut as part of one of your attacks on it. And then for this little incline, it's very awkward to properly traverse, so I didn't do it correctly. But if you end up spacing the dashes properly, then you're basically, the reason why this happened is because I'm gonna point it out right here. The dash right here was done slightly late, so I ended up walking forward a bit which meant my last dash was done off the ledge instead of right where the ledge was about to end. And the reason why this is bad is that for this like little movement here, you want to do 1, 2, and then third dash takes you off the ledge, and that way you can weapon float towards the bottom of your descent and land just where this platform is. Also, YouTube, again, being super slow, sorry. You would land just where this platform is, and you'd save time. If you have to drop down here and then jump again, you lose like half a second or so. Maybe a little bit more, but yeah. That's the idea behind that. If you know you're gonna miss this this dash though, it's not worth doing a weapon float or like an air attack at all. If you know you're gonna miss it, it's not worth doing it because you're gonna lose time since you suspend yourself in the air for longer than you would otherwise. And if you suspend yourself in the air longer and then you still miss this ledge, then you've just lost time basically. So yeah, we keep going. Again, sorry for the YouTube weirdness. I don't know why it's doing this. Yeah, not much in this part. For this portion of the run, though, we did change how we adjusted or how we collected the dues. This was probably done, I want to say, a year and a half ago from the recording of this video, which is in August of 2026. I want to say this was a year and a half ago where we started skipping this due. Might have been less time, actually. No, yeah, okay, now I know. We started skipping this due when the resting path skip was found by Pyronox. So the reason for skipping this due now is that the whole idea behind this stretch in Rainbow Plains is that we want to collect enough dues to be able to purchase 2 resting potions from Alice in Resting Town. However, in order to purchase 2 resting potions, you need 300 dues, and each of these offers like about 150. So technically, you only need 2 before you get to Alice to begin with. But the reason we collected a 3rd due was that we didn't have another due that we could collect quickly in order to fund the enhancement that we would do later on weapons that we collect, like the Iron Scythe, because the amount of dues we collected is just enough to be able to enhance the Iron Scythe as well. And the thing about this particular category is that we're not getting the Play of the Kingdom progression ability, the Ground Break progression ability, which allows us to break the dues faster. So we actually want to collect the dues earlier than later, especially if those dues end up along our path much more readily than dues late game. So getting this due used to be fast, but now that we're doing resting path skip, the place where we do the skip at the elevator has a due where we would do the skip, so we don't need to collect this due right here anymore. Which means before Guider 1, we're saving like 4 to 5-ish seconds, because that's like, it does surprisingly take a long time to get dues. Non-trivial time save. I think it's like 4 seconds or something. And then for this, notice how you still have to wait. It's not worth like pressing forward, because then if you press forward and then you get the cutscene, you just have to jump back here anyway on this ledge. So you just wait for the Ifrit to comment on the Phoenix that flew by. And then after the cutscene skipped, you do your long jump once again. This long jump's still pretty easy. You don't even have to do the weapon float there. The reason I do it is to set up my air height properly so that I can get an air dash that's low enough height-wise to land on this little plank as quickly as possible. If you just hold the jump button and then air dash, you can still get the height correctly, no problem. But this air float, weapon float, helps like align the height for me personally. But of course, you don't need to do it. And then for this echo, this was what I mentioned. But for this particular echo, because you don't have enough space to dash first, you have to press up first and then dash shortly afterwards in order to save time, basically, getting this echo. Because we're getting this echo to level up to level 2. So that way we have a main weapon attack, or 2 main weapon attacks rather, that we can apply going into, or no, it is 1. So that way we can have 1 main weapon attack to apply before we go into Guider 1. Because the other main weapon attack up that we get is thanks to the talent point that we acquire here soon. But yeah, I press up and then I dash. And then, of course, jump over these enemies. The movement here, I've kind of cleaned it up a little bit recently. There was a time where I used to try to long jump over all these enemies here, and I actually found out that to be slower. Like I tried a long jump over both these enemies like maybe 2 years ago, and I didn't realize that was like way slower than just jumping over them. Because it turns out in this game you want to spend more time on the ground than in the air, because obviously you move faster on the ground with the ground dashes not being limited. So yeah, you just jump, dash, and then of course here you can do a ledge grab, but the reason why I do an air dash instead is so that I can end up closer here for the air dash again. I can basically air dash right after. So jump, air dash, jump, air dash. Then of course a jump cut to get to that platform quickly. Again, sorry about the buffering. I don't know why it's doing this. It's so weird. Okay, we get this do. This do is still extremely fast. And then we go down and get this talent point to make Guider 1 faster. Gives us 1 extra main weapon attack, which matters a lot for a long fight like that. And then for this, very particular. Again, I was trying to figure out how to optimize early game, and I don't think it's going to be consistent across everyone's respective game setups. I guess it depends on how fast these cutscenes skip or whatever. But if you can find the timing where after hitting this lever, you skip the cutscene and the archer shot an arrow at you and it hits you as you're leaving the cutscene, then you'll be able to just dash right through these enemies using the iframes, and that'll save more time than having to jump over them. So, unfortunately for the timing of my setup, I have to wait slightly. I have to wait slightly before hitting it, and then I can just dash through. But if you can find the timing for your setup, then that'll save time over jumping over them. Usually, if it doesn't end up saving time because you have to wait too long, then it's better to just jump over them after hitting the lever immediately. And then, of course, as I mentioned, you want to still apply 2 talent points on main weapon attack specifically before the boss starts. And this boss, the way we fight it nowadays is in large part thanks to the research that Tam did. So shout outs to Tam. It's very, very hard to fight this boss optimally. I mean, obviously all it is just hopefully keeping up your crouch cancel rhythm, but there's more to it than that. And some of it's not entirely in your control. Ideally, you want to get her trapped into the corner, and then you start stone locking her with the crouch cancel attacks. But sometimes she doesn't cooperate with you, so you have to really strategically position yourself so that you can manip her into gradually going towards the corner. The fight in this run was pretty good, but I think it could have been much better. I could have still saved lots of time with this fight. And part of it's because my crouch cancels were not as fast as they could have been. But I remember at this time, I still wasn't like up to the level that I've played it before. And I wasn't even able to get the full like corner stun lock. But this is still like solid. This is like maybe if we had to rank it out of my usual Guider fights, this would be like a moderate average Guider fight. And you can see it was 1 second off my gold, but my gold is highly improvable still. So yeah, thanks to the solid first split, we're at a 349, which is not a bad Guider 1 time at all. I think a 344 is like about the upper limit if you play cleanly in the rest of the split. So here, I actually messed up here. I didn't get this echo. This echo, you're supposed to press up as you're dashing through it. As I mentioned, this is the echo that you just dash through and then press up as you're passing by it. But I ended up missing my up press. It looks like I didn't press up at all. So I went back to get it, and obviously that loses time. All right, and then, sorry, I don't know why it's incredibly slow. I'm gonna refresh, just hopefully it doesn't have all this like buffering. I should have had an offline recording instead, but I couldn't find my offline recording for this run, so you have to bear with me on this. But yeah, from here, we need to buy the 2 resting potions I mentioned. And these resting potions, the menu for this, you can either hit your trigger button to go to like the potions portion and then purchase them from there, or you can just go right twice and then go down and then buy the potion twice. All right, and here's like a big portion coming up. Again, shouts to Pyronox for finding this. What we used to do for traversing this area was, honestly, I'm glad we don't do it anymore. Getting through resting path was genuinely like a little bit of a choke point early on in the run, because the enemies do tons of damage to you if you mess up a little bit of platforming. And it's all like very tight weaving through the enemies, so you have to really like lock in still. But now that we have the resting path skip, I feel like it's a lot easier, at least up until the gauntlet. The gauntlet is still a little tricky, but anyway, obviously the first thing you want to do is to not trigger this elevator. So you have to jump across it without triggering it, right? Which requires a long jump. And this long jump, while not the tightest, is still requires you to make use of almost all your air actions at this point in the game. So you want to make sure to leverage the weapon float to extend the distance of your jump, and then air dash, and then extend the distance of your jump with another weapon float afterwards. The scythe will give you a longer weapon float than the one-handed sword, but the one-handed sword should be able to clear the distance still, regardless. And then you want to kill this little blue wisp because it gets in the way of you trying to lure this knight down the elevator. And then after this, as the knight moves forward and attacks you, you just want to make sure to get away from it so that you're not taking too much damage, because you do need enough health. If you're playing on advanced, you actually need to be able to soak like at least 2 hits from it, maybe even 3. And I think this knight is a 5-shot, so if you take too much damage, then you're going to be in trouble. Thankfully, because of our experience route and how it's set up, you'll level up off of this blue wisp. So if anything went poorly before getting here, then the blue wisp will let you get your health back. And obviously you can do a glyph on this elevator if you need to, like I did right here. And then after the elevator has gone down, get this dew, might as well. It doesn't lose any time, which is excellent. And then you want to make sure that as you're kind of your body's like rubbed against this like pillar here that's just above this crevice, and you want to crouch down, obviously. And then as this knight's attacking you, approaching you rather, you want to crouch just before, or you want to crouch attack just before it attacks you. Obviously, if it doesn't hit, then you just have to wait for its next attack cycle. But just before it hits you, you want to do a crouch attack, which will actually shrink the hurt box, or the collision box rather, of Renee just enough where she can pass under this crevice as you're getting hit. So if we're going to see that right here on the next hit, see that miss, but you still go for the next one. And then I crouch attack again. And that took 2 hits to get underneath. After you get underneath, you want to get that talent point because it's free and gives you a little bit more damage for this upcoming boss gauntlet. Or rather, it's not really a boss, it's just 2 late game enemies. There's not much to talk about for this like mini gauntlet. Obviously, make sure your crouch cancels are on point. This is another fight that's a little tricky to get the crouch cancel rhythm down on, because this enemy especially just gets pushed further back every time. But as long as your crouch cancel attacks are clean, then you don't lose that much time, even if you're a little slow on the crouch cancel attacks themselves. But missing them loses way more time than being at a slow rhythm. For this one, oh yeah, I should mention, so I'm going to go back towards the beginning. So this enemy spawns at a set time as you're in this fight. It doesn't matter how much you've progressed on this enemy. This enemy just spawns at a certain time, designated time within the fight. If you take too long on this guy and the other enemy spawn, just make sure you're aware of that other enemy potentially shooting an arrow at you, either straight at you horizontally or from the ground. It usually doesn't shoot from the ground when you're on the other side of the screen, especially if it's off screen, but it could shoot an arrow at you from slightly off screen, so just be careful. All right, and then for this one, again, it's pretty simple. The spot you stand on the stairs to make sure you never get hit by its like little punch attack, it's pretty lenient. You don't have to stand exactly at the spacing. You can stand a little lower even, but ideally you'd space yourself such that you're still able to hit with the scythe while not having to like manually dodge the little melee bump it does with this bow. Obviously, if it shoots an arrow, just make sure to jump a little bit and attack. And again, I don't know why YouTube is being so weird today. But yeah, if it shoots an arrow, then you just jump a little bit and attack. You want to jump at a low height, but low enough, but high enough to clear the arrow, but low enough so that you can get back to attacking as soon as possible. Obviously, collect the abilities and then RP back to the tree. That one was okay. I think it was close enough to a decent split, especially because we're sub 6. With our kind of current known strats and routing, sub 6 is a very solid, very strong exit time on resting path. So in the past, when we were getting bronze scythe, and even after skipping bronze scythe, I think after skipping bronze scythe, it was like around the sub 630 range was considered good. And when we were getting bronze scythe, it was like sub 7, something like that. Was a good exit time on resting path, but now sub 6 is very competitive. So now that we have slide, you'll notice that the movement's changed a lot. And I do want to talk a little bit about the dash slide movement just in the beginning. I'm not going to talk too much more about dash sliding since there's a lot that I talk about it in the written comprehensive movement guide, which I'll link in the description. But the main idea for dash sliding is that you want to cancel the dash as early as possible into slide, because the movement boost, or not movement boost, but like the little burst of speed you get from doing the dash is at its highest speed from the initial moment of the dash. So any longer period of time that you're letting the dash extend for doesn't let you move faster. So you want to cancel into slide as soon as possible. And then for getting down these like ledges, you actually are better off either falling off of them just organically or sliding off of them, because dashing off the ledge lets you suspend yourself in the air longer. And I've already mentioned being in the air in this game is technically worse than being on the ground in terms of speed. And then for this movement, again, ledge grabs are great, but you ideally, this is especially where jump cut ledge grabs are a little bit worse than kind of what I mentioned in the very beginning of the run, where you just air dash at the right height for the game to like push you into where the platform is at the correct height. Doing the latter is much better than manual jump cut ledge grabs. So sometimes you'll see me like jump doing why is it like this? Why is YouTube like this? Sometimes you'll see me jump and then do an air dash like right into the ledge, and it makes me like immediately grounded. And it's especially easy for inclines, but even for horizontal platforms, you'll still want to do it if possible to save the most time. That's the horizontal platform is where it's toughest to do it, especially straight into a dash slide. But that's like where you save the most time for sure. So yeah, jumping over these little rollers. Why? I'm so sorry about the YouTube issues, guys. I am trying to record this in one take due to reasons mentioned earlier in the video, but I apologize still about the issues we've been encountering. So yeah, field of geo movement, very tricky, but thankfully with good rehearsed implementation of it, like it's pretty consistent to get through it without losing too much time. You have to be pretty mindful of the patterns or the cycles that cat bomb throwers are on, because otherwise you're going to lose tons of time to them. But if you just practice going through the whole area, like just do drills of it, then you'll get used to it. For this run, there was a part earlier that I could have done better. So yeah, this is something that's a little newer that I've been implementing, is dashing right in front of the face of this enemy instead of doing a ledge grab up here and then doing an air dash over it, because you're kind of wasting another jump basically, where you could just jump once over it when you're close to it and avoid having to spend more time jumping. It's buffering again. So you can see the jump cut into an air dash. It's very important to get that down. And it's worth pointing out as well, from what we know, the cycles in Field of Geo slightly differ depending on your graphic settings. So what we recommend, even though graphic settings obviously can make the game perform differently on different systems, we've just concluded that it's best to just find one graphic setting that works best for you and just stick with that and learn the run on that, rather than trying to fiddle around with like the most optimal graphic settings, because you're better off with getting comfortable with one like kind of enemy cycle set for a section like this, and getting accustomed to that as far as speed is concerned, and especially consistency as well. I play on the highest settings. I forgot exactly what they're called, but basically the highest setting for everything. I think it's like ultra, and this is the cycles I have as a result. I think ultra might be fastest on my system as far as cycles, but there's some sections where it's definitely not better to play in ultra, so it's like a trade-off, I guess. But yeah, so here, very important to cancel out that bomb thrower, and then same thing with this one. But this one, no matter what, for my graphic settings, you just have to wait a little bit before jumping up to it. And then this one, sometimes you might have to wait, sometimes not. It depends. There, I didn't have to wait. So what we do there, and we've been doing this for some time now. We've been doing it since like late 2023 or early 2024. Is damage boosting off this cat thrower. It's really scary on advanced. It puts you at just above half health, but it saves lots of time, because before we were just killing it, and that took forever. Even with the bronze scythe, that took forever when we used to get that. But with the wooden scythe, it takes especially long. Now, after you proceed past it, this movement, of course, just standard dash sliding. Here is exactly what I was talking about, where you notice how I jump straight into the dash slide. That's because I'm basically air dashing at just the right height, where you can see it. Actually, I air dashed slightly lower than the platform, but the game pushes you up, as you can see. Like if you air dash at close enough to where the height of the platform is, the game will push you up into the platform, which is exactly what I was talking about. Now, unfortunately, for some terrain and some platforms in this game that are horizontal, the game won't quote unquote ground you. Like ground you meaning like you won't be planted with your feet solid on the ground for just a little bit of time. And thus, when you try to cancel the dash right here into slide, if the dash started off this platform, sometimes the game will put you in a grounded animation before you're allowed to cancel into slide. And it's kind of annoying, because it's not only is it not directly avoidable, it's not entirely your fault, it's just the terrain in some places of the game just doesn't let you do the dash slide right away. But also it kind of throws off the timing you have to do the cancel into slide for. But this is how it would look ideally. And obviously you want to slide under that crevice. And then for this enemy, you would need to bait it into attacking you first. And then you want to land pretty close to the top of this incline so that you can go right back into jumping as soon as possible, so you can jump underneath it once it goes to attack you. And then here's where the ledge grabs, the jump cut ledge grabs, save lots of time, and it's important to learn. This is like the spot it saves the most time, I think, in the entire game. What? Why is it like this? Why is YouTube like this? Like obviously it saves time in these little sections as well, but the jump cut ledge grabs save the most time in the spot after that enemy I was talking about. And it's worth learning them if you're trying to go for top level times, I would say. Because it lets you really clear these enemies without having to wait any time. And then, of course, jumping over these enemies is faster than waiting for them to attack and sliding under them. Jump cut ledge grabs save more time in that spot as well, but I just don't do them in that part. I haven't learned how to like properly platform on that part yet. And then for this spot, you'll notice that I don't do the same method of jump cutting for this part, because this is like a really low platform relative to my jump height. In fact, it's lower than like just your jump height if you just press jump briefly. So almost all the time you'll kind of land a little above it. So what you want to do instead is you want to release the jump button after you've pressed it, and then basically immediately when you get to the height that's correct to land on here, you want to press the attack button. And see how I've already released jump, because this is a different kind of ledge grab. This is still like kind of a jump cut, but you're not like, instead of cutting your jump by pressing the attack button while you have the jump button still held, you're setting your jump height using the weapon float so that you land on this lower than your jump height platform much sooner than you would otherwise. And it might not look like it saves time, but it saves ever so slightly a good amount of time. So worth pointing that out. I don't think any other runner does this, or if they do, maybe they don't do it like regularly, but worth pointing that out for sure. And then you want to hit that bomb thrower to cancel it throwing bombs at you as you're jumping up to it. And then this spot is so awkward. Like, I'm telling you guys, we took so long. It took us so long to like figure out how to pass by this knife thrower. But the ideal thing is to, as it's about to throw knives as you're jumping towards it, you just do an air attack, which cancels out the knives and like kind of shields you from being hit. And then you jump over it again as it's trying to like throw the knives at you again. Because after you cancel these knife throws, it'll try to jump afterwards. You can see that I'm air attacking it to prevent it from jumping. So that's like another measure you can do. But typically you're fine if you just jump immediately after landing over it before it tries to jump and throw the knives at you. And then you're chilling. You don't have to wait for this guy at all. And then this long jump, again, this was found even before I ran the game. But this long jump is to get Blackwood Blade early. And this long jump's a little tricky. Honestly, I've seen people struggle with this a little bit. Even though it's technically pretty easy to make consistent, I would say. But if you don't know how to make it consistent, then it could be tough. But basically what you want to do here, you don't want to, how do I say this? You jump, and then you want to make sure that you want to make sure to do your weapon float sort of, there's two options. You do your weapon float after your head is bonked this upper platform already, or you make sure that your jump height is low enough where you won't bonk up here so that you can just do your weapon float a little sooner. But I found the latter to be a little trickier personally. So instead I just do like the maximal height jump, let my head bonk, and then do the weapon float so that I can still get the proper extended distance. Because the problem is, if you do the weapon float if you do the weapon float and then your head bonks afterwards, then you stop floating and then you just start falling after that, and you won't have enough height to clear this distance. And then of course you just air dash and then weapon float again. There was a time I used to do this menu to equip Blackwood Blade just before loss, but the problem I was encountering with that is that getting past these knife throwers with the updated route that we have right now was proving to be a lot trickier than I wanted it to be. So instead I've decided to just equip the Blackwood Blade. Now I'll just tell you this tip of advice right now. It is not worth killing this little blue enemy. Just jump past it. But I think for this run I still wasn't sure whether it was worth it or not. Thankfully it didn't lose me too much time, right? But yeah. And then for this knife thrower, you can kill it or not. You don't need to kill it, but I think, why is it doing this again? Oh my goodness. Typically the knife thrower won't interrupt if you go fast enough, and on these graphic settings the knife thrower is not in a good position to attack you before you can jump past it. So jumping past it is just faster, but if you want to be safe, then you can jump past it with an air attack. And then same with this one, you want to, like, as you're jumping towards it, you want to air attack it to deflect the knives, and then jump over this guy. This spot too, I've kind of worked out better movement for it to optimize. So instead of sliding under him, waiting and then sliding under, it's faster to jump over him specifically. and then weapon float so that you can clear both of these ledges. And that way you won't have to like land and spend more time like getting to your maximum fall speed as you're getting down here. So yeah, you clear both those ledges, and then you would jump, do a dash slide on this platform, or dash slide onto and then off of this platform. It's really tough to do it, and you can see I missed it there. It doesn't lose that much time to miss the dash slide, but you know, it's better to get the dash slide there so you can dash off. Then of course, we're now in Emerald Falls. This is the portion where I don't think jump cuts really save that much time. So you can jump cut or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm still doing it, but you don't need to do it, I don't think, to save time. I think these like platforms are at the right height for like your lowest height jump to make it. You still, as you saw there, when you get up to this monkey, you still want to make sure to do an extended jump there, a long jump, to make that platform. So you want to do an extra jump after jumping over the monkey, because it does save time to do that. But otherwise, yeah. All right, and then dash slide, and I missed it. This is exactly what I was talking about, actually. We can point it out here. This has nothing to do with this particular terrain. It's actually because I didn't, like, you can see when I dashed, I was slightly above the ground. So my legs were not actually planted to be able to be on the ground and then slide. So that's where these things are tough to do, but it's not a big deal. Like, just an optimization. So as you can see, this is pretty spooky. You're going into Lost with less than half health, just under half health. But with the way we fight Lost nowadays, and a lot of this was found thanks to Robbo's work. I know Robbo fights this boss a different way nowadays. Tam also helped contribute to how we fight Lost right now, but it's really consistent now to kill Lost extremely quickly. And the main idea for it is that it's kind of very rote the way it plays out now, but if you don't get exactly every possible attack, it's fine. You can still kill it quickly, even without good feather RNG for phase 2. But you definitely want to be mindful of whenever you crit, because the crit hit stop will eat your inputs like nobody's business, and that's like the worst nightmare for anyone running this game. How you fight this boss ideally, after it does this little like intro cutscene, your inputs are locked, obviously. So because of your inputs being locked, you want to make sure to dash slide as you enter the arena so you can end up close to it. You want to do an air attack, so we're going to see that here. Ideally, both hits of the blade connect, but I missed one of them, which is fine. You don't want to get hit, obviously, because you'll die. And then as the attack finishes, the active frames are gone, so you can safely just jump attack back in, get some jump attacks in. As he does these feathers, you want to deflect one or two of them as he's putting them at you, but if you can't position yourself to deflect them, then you just go to the other side, or you can stay on this side if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. You can saw I deflected one of them, or two of them, but not the third one. And then you want to do oh my goodness, YouTube is saying nah, I'm not gonna let you do it. So yeah, you get the air attacks in, and then you want to fade away as you're doing some of these air attacks. And then as he's going to the middle, ideally you get 2 air attacks in. Sometimes he won't let you though. Sometimes he'll let you do only one. It's fine. It's not a big deal. You're better off just meeting him in the center at the right time so you get a couple more attacks before he does the feathers. And optimally, you get 2 air attacks, and then as you land from the second air attack, you get a 3rd standing attack from the ground with the blade. And then you cancel that as it hits. You cancel that into your next jump into the air attack to deflect the feathers that are coming out. I missed it here because I jumped too high on the second air attack, if we're allowed to show that. So I jumped too high on the second one, as you can see, so I was not able to get the ground attack. But again, it's not a big deal because you're still kind of auto-timed for getting the deflects in. And then this is this little like exit from loss is something that Raba does, and I took from him. Instead of dashing off of this log, you want to walk off of it and then dive kick down, then dive kick towards the left. That way you'll be able to use your air dash to land on the log that's underneath and not have to like re-jump onto it. So this lets you save a little bit of time as opposed to just dashing off. Then dive kick, obviously you have to. And then this is something that different runners do differently. This little spot here. I know that Rabo dashes to the end of this ledge here and there's a dash from here to like space himself to not get hit by these spikes. But it's also just fine to just walk to the edge of this platform and dive kick down. Either way, you want to make sure to do it quickly, not waste too much time, because otherwise there's a dragon that will try to meet you as you're getting the dew. And if that dragon meets you, it's on advance, it's like the worst nightmare because the dragon will two-shot you. On normal, it's honestly not a big deal. In worst case scenario, you can just kill it, spend the time to kill it, and lose like maybe 5 seconds or whatever. But you're already going to lose time if that happens. So, you know, you just have to bite the bullet. Get this dew. This dew is still pretty fast to get because you don't need to get that many more dews throughout the run. As long as you get that one. And then it's necessary to get this resting potion as well because it's just on the way there. And nowadays, I think the competitive times for exiting loss are like 9:30. So 9:24 is obviously really good. For this leap of faith thing, the way to line up yourself to always land in the right spot as you get into the columns is to look at this pillar, this like very final pillar that we reach when the columns loads in. You want to look at like this little like part of this column, like this little section. I'll pause it from here. Like this part of it. You want to align yourself with that. And then if you align yourself with it, then you'll land in the right spot all the time. It's pretty easy. So it'll land right about there. And then for the columns, if you're not sure whether you can make it past the sharks, you can just slide under them. Optimally for this section, as you're making it past this little platform, you want to jump and dive kick bounce off of one of the sharks so that you can immediately, after you get the bounce, your air options will be reset, and then you'll be able to land on. You'll be able to use your air actions to land on this platform here, and then dash right off of it afterwards. So that's the main idea for that. And then you want to, like, typically what I do here, you don't have to do this little weapon float, but what I do the weapon float for is just to make sure to like fine align myself just in case I dove a little too short of the pipe here or a little too far, because you can adjust yourself as you're about to land on it. And then slide under the shark. For the way my cycles are set up on these graphics settings, it's technically fastest to take damage from that shark rather than duck under it and wait for it to bite. But I just forgot to do it here. But yeah, technically it's faster damage boost to that shark. And you get the tree right afterwards anyway. And I'll talk about this tree just briefly. This tree used to be skipped, actually, not by myself, but by Rabo and maybe some other runners. Because what they used to do after fighting Aus was manually exit from her. And that exit is a nightmare. Some of those enemies in Town of the Exiled, my goodness. But that exit takes a lot longer than just using a resting potion to leave the Aus fight and get back to the columns tree. And the reason for that is partially because of the cutscene that you're supposed to see after you beat Aus. But using the resting potion to go back to the columns is faster because you don't have to see that cutscene. All right, and then get this echo for level 8. That's very important if you're on advanced, because I think even on normal it's important because for the same reasons actually. Because on advanced makes Aus a 2-shot if you get if you get to level 8 and you also get the +5 HP potion talent, it makes Ouse a 2-shot on advanced, and it would be a 3-shot on normal, respectively. So here, just want to talk about this as I want to talk about this right now before I forget. This enemy right here, it's best to just tap it, hit it with your weapon, so that it doesn't shoot the homing water ball at you, because if it shoots that and you're not able to dodge it, you just get hit and you lose more time. Hitting it doesn't take that long, so it's not a big deal. Stops it from being annoying. Oh my goodness. We spent an hour and we're only 10 minutes into the run. Yeah, so I'll you know, maybe I'll do a separate video just talking about more about the record, like the record, I guess. I don't know. Maybe this video will probably be sufficient still. I don't like, let me know what you guys think if you want like a video where I talk about the record run itself more, or whether you thought this video was sufficient going over the kind of intricacies of any percent itself and the things that are hard to notice if you're not familiar with the history. So here is like the first instance of showing like that we're dash sliding through an enemy. I don't know who originally found it, to be honest, but I know for sure that as I was gaining more competency in dash sliding in general, we were able to dash slide through more enemies and stuff. And I know that Tam was able to find the ones that are in holy grounds. But yeah, this is not how this spot is supposed to go. Ideally for this traversal, and it's honestly a spooky traversal. I'm still not confident in it myself. But ideally, as you make your way to this platform, you've jumped to it such that just a couple of dashes will let you like skip the gap here and not have to deal with this enemy or this enemy at all, or these two enemies rather. But because I missed the platform, I had to engage with this enemy, and that means that it's gonna follow me because this enemy is like very aggressive. It loses time too, because if it ends up joining you on the elevator, you have to make sure that it doesn't kill you. Because again, we're getting 2-shot by Alice, but then if you take damage from it, you're not gonna get 2-shot by Alice anymore. You're gonna get 1-shot. So yeah, join me on the elevator. The best thing to do here would have been to just bounce on it, but I didn't register that in my brain in time, so I just had to kind of think on the fly. And unfortunately, that didn't come to mind in time. But yeah, you want to get the Scythe of Torture upgrade, obviously. Don't actually enhance it, though. No need. Because we're literally using it for just 2 bosses. Those being Ouse and Crystallized Wolf. All right. And you can see that, again, here where we're using the air dash at the correct height so that we can just dash slide from there. The air dash kind of snaps us to the height of the platform. And then the Ouse boss fight, there's a lot to this fight that I won't be able to go into in this video. But at least for now, know that you want to land a requisite number of crouch cancel attacks on her so that she just never attacks. And you'll gradually get a feeling of the rhythm that's necessary to do so. But it's important to know that if she does manage to get attacks out, don't panic. Just keep attacking her. Don't mind too much the enemies she spawns or the orbs that are following you. If they end up following you, there's some backup strats, such as using the dive kick to bounce off of her lower hurt box, which you can safely do without taking damage for some reason. This was a great pattern. This pattern where she does like the array of orbs is the best pattern in both phases, but she doesn't really do it in phase 1. I don't even think she does in phase 1 at all, as far as I know. But yeah, don't forget to get the clan whistle, of course. That's the whole reason to fight Ouse. Then we RP back to columns and just dash out. Yeah, there's not much to say about the Ouse fight otherwise. I know that as people got better at crouch cancel attacks, we were able to save a lot of time on that fight. There still was more time to save on that fight for sure, but especially because that enemy got in the way before the fight. But that was still close to my gold, despite that. So for Crystallized Wolf, this is actually not a good Crystallized Wolf fight. And I know that I've fought Crystallized Wolf much better in the past, but it's fine. It's a little scary on advance because it one-shots you. For Crystallized Wolf, you just want to keep attacking it. And the main thing you want to make sure is that you're not too close to it such that it'll... Like, because the thing about the bite attack is that the hitbox of the bite attack actually extends outside of the contact damage box before he like moves forward. It's so annoying. And you'll notice it if you're standing like right in front of him, trust me. But the only thing that's going on in this fight is just that you need to deflect the little icicles that he shoots out. Otherwise, you're chilling pretty much. And you also want to make sure that you give yourself enough space for the icicles to actually come out. Because if you're still too close to the boss when you're trying to deflect the icicles, you won't deflect the icicles and they'll still hit you. It's really weird, but it's happened before. Not to myself, but to another runner I've seen. So yeah, optimally you would kill it basically a couple attacks after the icicles. I think if you're like reasonably fast with the crouch cancels. I have not gotten that in a long time, so it's unfortunate. Yep, so we're in the overworld, not much to say. Teardrop, the movement is extremely rehearsed now, so not much deviation you'll see among the runners. Pretty much as you see it done is how you want it to go. And here I know that some runners do not have the one-handed sword equipped. I re-equipped the one-handed sword as I equipped the Scythe of Torture for the first time for Aus. This makes it more comfortable for me personally to do platforming. Because I like the one-handed sword for platforming, especially for jump cutting. And it also happens to let you break barriers faster than the blade. Because crouch cancel attacks are faster than using the blade air attacks. But if you don't have the one-handed sword equipped, it's not worth it to just open the menu again to re-equip it. If you're not already re-equipping it with another menu, then you just want to stick with whatever you have at that time. So after that, just go straight to Holy Grounds. And this is where there's been so much work to optimize things. Now, unfortunately, none of these optimizations make Holy Grounds safer. So if you're looking for safety in this section, I'm sorry, that safety does not exist anymore. Especially not on Armorless Advanced. But there's a couple things to talk about here. So for this tree, and I'm still not 100% sure what's going on with this tree, but basically if you tap it dead in the center where Renee does not like walk to align herself to the center after you tap the tree, press up, that is. What happens is that the dragonfly that you need to bounce off of for this sequence break that's coming up does not end up spawning consistently. So what I have always done, and I think this was first noticed by Trash Lacrosse long ago before I started running even. What I noticed is that it's just best to tap the tree as soon as the symbol comes up. Basically, you want to tap like kind of in the outer edge of the tree. That way, it's annoying that you have to wait for Renee to like walk to the center to go through the animation, but I found it to consistently have the dragonfly spawn, so that's important to note. And that's important for time save on the strat that's coming up here. I did a lot of work to like fix basically the traversal we were doing here because there's so much time we could have saved. Before, the way we were getting through this spot made it such that we had to like wait 2 cycles for these droplets to get out of the way. These droplets right there to get out of the way. But now we only have to wait 1 cycle, which you can see that saves, like we would have had to wait again. We would have had to wait for these droplets to come down right there, which we're saving like maybe 4 or 5 seconds just by speeding up the traverse a little bit so that we can barely clear under those droplets. So the way to do this is, as you're getting to this incline, you want to dash slide up to it. This is basically the little like ledge snap I've been talking about for air dashing. Unfortunately, for this particular terrain, it's the most finicky I've found for any incline. So you won't always get it. And if you don't get it, don't force like the cycle to be made, because you're not going to make it. You're going to get hit, and on advance you'll get one shot. So if you notice that you didn't snap and the slide didn't come out after you landed, like after your feet got planted, then just, unfortunately you just have to wait for the droplets to finish, and then it's basically like the 2 cycle bypass for that plant. The most important part beyond those things, though, is that you also want to look towards the left here. And I like crouching as well, because this will avoid the attack that this plant does no matter what. If it does the kind of lash at you, or if it spits out this green projectile, you'll duck under both, or you'll avoid both basically. And also you need to look in this direction, because this will trigger the aggro of the Dragonfly AI. So a lot of things going on here that are very subtle, and I think a lot of people don't notice, because this is a strat pretty much only I implement right now. Or I think Robbo implements it now, but he might not be fully aware of the nature of this either. And then of course you want to bounce off the Dragonfly. I did a couple extra bounces just to be safe, but it's not needed. Then you grab the Dim Bomb, which we're going to use to enhance the Iron Scythe. And also, I forgot to mention earlier, but we also got the Mysterious Bomb in the overworld for enhancing the Iron Scythe. And then the rest of this traversal here is extremely unoptimal still, but a lot of it is around safety as opposed to doing it quickly. So keep that in mind. And I think there is a way to kind of move past this enemy without having to wait for all the droplets to pass through, but I've never been bold enough for that. I keep dying every time I try it. Now here's here's a strat I want to give a shout out to Lone Right for. Lone, I believe they're called Lone. Sorry, not Lone Right, just Lone. This sequence break initially was found again before. I think, was it before I started running? No, I don't think it was before I started running, but it was around when I started running. I wasn't yet using this armorless advanced route, so it didn't really apply to me in the same danger level as it was before. But at least after I started running this route, I was trying to clean up the speed at which we did this. And the strat we were doing before was bouncing off of this Dragonfly to get across to this platform right here. And then in one smooth movement, we just bounce off of it again from this platform to get up there. So it was kind of 2 steps, 2 parts, right? And I was able to kind of work out the way to get that to work consistently. So we just all used that. But Lone, after they started running, found a way for us to just get all the way across in one smooth movement. And basically it involves bouncing off the Dragonfly, doing a long jump to get this chest opened, and then dashing back towards the left to bounce off of this plant or the Dragonfly, depending on whichever one's closer to you. And then using the fact that your air actions reset from the bounce off the Dragonfly to make it back to collect the Iron Scythe that was from the chest that we opened there. So you're going to see it here. And it's a really good strat. This strat is genuinely awesome. It doesn't save the most time, but you'd be surprised. It does save a non-trivial amount of time. I've had to guess it would probably save 3 to 4 seconds compared to what we used to do. But it's super clean. Maybe I can rewind just a little more briefly. Yeah, so it's super, super clean. And then obviously for the Iron Scythe, you want to equip it and enhance it right away. Not that it matters for this section if you're playing on advanced, but if you're playing on normal, I think it does matter that you enhance and equip it right away. So for this section, we still haven't found a way to consistently dash through these enemies. Technically, you can dash through them, but by no means is it consistent. Good luck if you're going to do it. These particular enemies on the lower part. I think if you're playing on lower graphic settings, it might be easier, but I've personally not found any success with it. If anyone does manage to do it, then please let us know. As for the enemies here, though, you can definitely do it a little bit more stably. In fact, I think this works pretty solidly as long as your dash slides are clean. This spot, whenever I try to use the air dash to like snap to this ledge, it almost always makes me like, it forces me to like plant the feet manually. It's so annoying. And I think it's due to the fact that this elevator here, I don't know what it is, but even when I manage to get this dash slide immediately, I still have to like wait on this elevator after it shakes, meaning I'm not able to get the dash slide after I pass by the elevator. It's so annoying. But if I get this little like feet plant animation, if I get this feet plant animation like along this incline, then it doesn't occur on the elevator, and then if it doesn't happen on the incline, then it happens on the elevator. It's so weird. I don't know if anyone else has encountered this, but if you understand what I'm talking about, then you'll know what I mean. Yeah, but these weren't the fastest dash slides, and it was still pretty solid overall. It's a 0.2 second gold, which can definitely, like, time could definitely be saved on that because the movement was not the best. And then for this, again, these ledge snaps are super hard, so like hitting both of them was pretty nice. Just save the most time. The next best thing you can do is to would it be jump cut ledge grab, or would it be to dive land? I'm not sure. I used to dive land because it was obviously easier, but it requires a lot more APM. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's an easier way, right? That doesn't have to hurt my hands as much. But nope, not an easy. There is an easier way that doesn't hurt your hand as much, but it's not faster. So, the ledge snap is faster with the air dash, but not the jump cut ledge grab. Anyway, for this part, so there's been some minor optimizations over time. We used to hit this bulb for this platform, but now we know we can just bounce off the rat. It's still scary though, because again, it one shots, so have fun. On advanced, that is. Then we want to jump up here. You got to kill this rat before jumping on this platform so that it doesn't get in the way. Otherwise, it'll just get in the way. And then a recent discovery of mine for this part was that you can bounce off of this plant to get to this platform without having to jump back up here after you activate the platform here with the bulb that's to the right. So basically, before we got this bulb, we would effectively kill this plant using the iron scythe instead of just deflecting the projectiles with the one-hand sword. And this is way easier to do if you have the one-hand sword equipped, by the way. If you have like the blade equipped, there's a non-zero chance you might kill it on accident, but I think it's much easier to not kill it when you have like a weaker weapon. Anyway, before we used to hit this bulb, then like kill this enemy, hit this bulb, then traverse back up here and then jump up to this platform and move forward, right? But it's like saves like 4 seconds or so, maybe 5 seconds. If you actually no, I found the time save. I'll look back and maybe put in the description because I did find the exact time save. Anyway, yeah, you make sure to deflect the projectiles, jump over it, hit the bulb. Then you would do a specific dive bounce that lets you get like a boosted height. It's like a boosted pogo basically, and you get much more height than like the normal dive kick bounce, so that you can land on this platform. I missed it here, but lately I've gotten it more consistently, so it's not too bad. Like it's not that hard, but you can definitely miss it, and obviously if you miss it, then you lose time. So. And then skip this cutscene. Notice how, again, I skipped the cutscene using the D-pad to avoid the hold to skip bug. And I think using D-pad to skip the cutscene also avoids getting stuck in the floor here. But don't quote me on that. Try for yourself and see to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Yeah, killing this rat is fine because you can just dash past the death rattle. And then this long jump, I've seen a lot of people have trouble with it. It's not hard. Just make sure to let all of your air actions extend properly, and you should be fine, especially with both the double jump and the air dash. You can weapon float to your heart's content with having double jump here. This echo, I see people skip. If you're doing what's now called the Whispering Forest skip or Whispering Forest sequence break, which there's some history to talk about here. But if you're doing this sequence break, you should get this echo, especially if you're doing the sequence break on advanced, I should say, get this echo. If you're on normal difficulty, this echo doesn't matter that much because you're not going to take damage from the spikes. But the reason to get this echo is you want to be in level up range after you make it past that spike section so that you can heal back up. Because if you took damage to spikes, like maybe half health, all those enemies that you're going to be navigating towards again will one shot if you make a mistake, and then you have to do the sequence break again. And the spot you spawn back from, if you didn't get this tree, is going to be all the way in the beginning of Whispering Forest. So pretty bad. But yeah, it's nice to be at full health after the spikes finish, or after you get past the spikes. Now for the sequence break itself, this was found by me, but not with the current method. The current method that we use right now to do this traversal or this maneuver was found by Robbo. Because the method I found long ago was not something that others could reproduce stably, because it had something to do with my frame rate being uncapped. Because I was leveraging like a corner boost off of a very weird behaving collision in this like little section that we're about to see. But Robbo thankfully found a much better method that others could reproduce. I wouldn't say the method was easier at first, or I found it that way at least, but over time I found it to be doable. And because I needed to use a method that worked on the GDQ setup when I went to SGDQ in 2024, because I was doing this run, or not this run, but I was doing the Essential, which is where I was implementing the sequence break, because that was the category I was doing when I initially found the sequence break. I had to learn the method that worked on their setup, which so happened that Robbo's method worked. So I had to learn that like basically on the fly, and thankfully we got it done. Anyway, yeah, the current method we use is like involves like a pop-up effect that is produced when you do a weapon float at a certain timing after your double jump. And the timing is very specific. So if you don't know the timing, you're not going to get this. You can't brute force it. You do have to learn the timing. Now, thankfully, the pop-up effect is greatly enhanced the lower your frame rate is. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's very much the case. However, being at a low frame rate for this trick is not necessarily beneficial, because playing at low frame rate for this game is a nightmare, basically. That's the summary of it. The game is very sluggish at low frame rates. And according to what I've found personally, the game actually runs slower on lower FPS, but that's a separate story. Basically, this trick is harder at higher FPS, but you have to deal with some other issues if you play at lower FPS potentially. Anyway, I have like just a personal rough idea of how to do it, but the best way to describe it is you need to jump and make sure that you're doing a weapon float just underneath, such that you can clear just underneath this corner here, and that you don't bonk it. If you bonk it, then you're gonna mess up. But you also need to make sure that you clear it without having your height be too low under this pillar, because if your height's too low, you're not going to get enough height from the pop-up to be able to make the ledge on the other side. So you jump ideally from the edge of this platform here, and see how my weapon float started right about from here. Oops, why did that happen? Anyway, so you can see the weapon float starts there, but my height is just under this corner, and then the air dash is done once I confirm the height is good. But here, unfortunately, I got caught in this corner, so I knew it was going to mess up, and I just dove down just to restart it prematurely so that we don't waste time in the air. Just try it again, no worries. And by the way, in terms of how much time save this saves over the previous traversal that we used to do before I found it, this saves like up to like 40 seconds. It's crazy how much time this saves if you get a first try. If you don't get a first try, you're still saving time. I think it saves time up to the 7th try, something like that. I've never done a side-by-side comparison per se, but when I was timing it initially with the traversal that we had when I was doing the traversal like long ago, it would like, I thought it saved 50 seconds even, but it turns out 40 seconds is about the maximum amount of time you're saving. And if you're on advanced, each attempt takes like 7 to 8 seconds. So you can do the math there and figure out, yeah, around the 6th or 7th attempt is where you're going to be losing time. Yeah. So again, got caught in the corner. Try it again. So just lower height, and you'll see that for this double jump in the air, see where height is right here. For this double jump, you'll see even after the weapon float, normally the weapon float will basically lock in the height that you're at, and you can see I'm not at the correct height to make this ledge. But specifically with this pop-up effect, you'll actually gain height. And it's really cool that this exists, and be, you know, combined with that with the ledge grab right there, from doing the weapon float. But yeah, you gain height from the pop-up effect, and that's what lets this maneuver be possible. So huge time save, and the time save was originally in a category where I thought it would only be applicable there. But when we tried to time it in 90%, we realized it saved tons of time in 90% as well. We were just like, oh yeah, might as well do this in 90% as well. It's great. And also lets us get this robot to activate the portal sooner, so that we don't have to like kind of retrace our steps to activate it. So it's doubly beneficial. Now for this part after you get the portal unlocked, oh my goodness. Again, I mentioned the echo here to heal back up. You don't have to kill this enemy, but trust me, if you don't kill it, this guy is gonna put some spikes underneath you as you're trying to break the barrier. And if you're not fast enough at breaking this barrier, then you're gonna get hit. And on advanced, that can one-shot potentially. So, but yeah. Then the rest of this is very particular to make sure not to get hit by any of these enemies. It can still be improved slightly, this maneuver, this traversal, but it's overall pretty well rehearsed to make sure that we don't get hit and move quickly. So then for the failure fight, the way we fight it right now, various contributors have put their stake in to make this fight better. At the time where we were trying to improve failure, a lot of it was just, you know, my messing around and making sure that, oh, hey, we can end with failure at the right side of the screen rather than the left so that we can exit sooner. And then Robbo found that you can hit failure while it's like zooming around in phase 2 before it plants on the ground after it's going diagonally, right? So basically combining those, we got to be able to clear failure a lot faster than in the past. But yeah, the main idea here is that you want to dash slide past underneath it, because by the time you get it to the health threshold, you'll be on the correct side for it to end up on the right side rather than on the left side. Ending up with failure on the left side loses a lot of time because you have to end up dash sliding back towards the right after the fight's over, and you lose like 2 seconds or something or more. So then dash under, attack, 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 and then we want to attack it here. This is what Robbo found. You can attack it just before it like zooms all around, and then crouch cancel attack it, and it's dead. So this exit, there's been like numerous iterations. My goodness. Before we used to grab wall climb and then just RP out. And then actually that's not even true, because at one point Robbo was going for in-game time, and I know that's what he used to do, but I think what I had used to do was always just manually exit. And then we figured out that with the RP routing that we arrived at, that manually exiting out is just faster overall anyway. So yeah, you want to make sure to hit this octopus, because otherwise it'll throw the projectiles at you while you're climbing up. If it's not there, then that's awesome. That means you can just scale up without having to deal with it. And then here, it's so annoying, this crevice, but sometimes it like cuts you short and it'll force you to slide into this spot where there's a cutscene trigger. But thankfully, if you make sure that you're like far enough against this crevice opening before you slide into it, then you can just like dash out and miss the cutscene trigger. So that's how it works there. And not getting that cutscene trigger saves like 2 seconds. So it's pretty nice. A little more than 2 seconds, probably. So yeah, I lost time there because of the because of this being second try with spring skip. And then something Rabo found is that this enemy does not one-shot you in advanced from contact damage. So before, what we used to do was just sit there and wait for it to shoot the 2 projectiles, right? But if you just damage boost on the contact damage, then you can move past it a lot faster. And if you're bold, you don't even have to jump over this dragonfly like I did here in this run. You can even like use the iframes to slide here and dive kick down. But the problem with that is that sometimes this projectile will hit you because it has so many active frames. So I don't end up doing that. And this is something I found a little bit more recently. But after you kill this mosquito, you can just dash through it because it doesn't do contact damage. And then if you dash through it and go as far enough against this barrier as you're attacking it as you possibly can, then you won't get hit by the mosquito's death rattle. So it's a pretty nice time save. That actually saves like maybe 3 seconds. Like it saves a little bit of time because you don't have to wait for this mosquito's death rattle to finish. I didn't save as much time there as I could have, but yeah. And then the ever so dreaded Unstoppable Devil fight. Honestly, I wish I could tell you more profound things about this fight, but at this point, just try not to get hit, and hopefully you get a fight that doesn't involve her doing the ice rain, which waste 7 to 8 seconds. And typically you avoid it just by attacking her as fast as possible, but even then, sometimes she still does it. So in this fight, she did not do it because she would have done it like two attack cycles ago. And boom, you save 6 to 7 seconds just like that. So yeah, on a pace like this, it's natural to be nervous. For me, I don't think I was nervous because I've done lots of runs of not just this category, but this game in general. And you go through like the same ups and downs of, you know, making a small little mistake and stuff, and you know, after a certain point the nerves go away. So you just execute and you'll be fine. But for this section, there's been a lot of cleanliness applied to it. Shouts to Rabo for helping me figure this out long ago when I was a new runner. You don't have to do all this exactly as you see, but at least with the traversal that I've done in this run, it typically lets the section be smooth sailing. The main thing though is you want to make sure to dash over this guy as quickly as possible, because otherwise you're going to get hit by the spinning blades attack it does. And if it does the ranged attack instead, where it throws its disc, you can play around that by wall jumping up here as quickly as you can. You can also play around it by like kind of dashing far away from it as you're going past it, but that loses a little bit more time even though it's safe. So it's not necessary. But yeah, you basically want to dash over as quickly as possible. And then for this part, this is something I optimized more recently. You can make it past this mosquito before the little droplet that it sends down would be able to hit you, as long as you bounce off of this guy and then quickly dash slide past. And then same thing, because you've dash slid past this droplet, you can pogo off of this guy before it does either one of its attacks, where it can either, this is kind of RNG, it can either shoot the 2 projectiles or it can do a shield. The shield is obviously better, but it's not something it's in your control. So to avoid both, you can just bounce off of it after you do the dash slide. And you have to do it really quickly, because otherwise the projectiles will hit you if it does the projectile attack. And if the projectiles hit you, you die. So don't let that happen. So you can see, I was just barely fast enough. Like, this is actually like extremely close. I was just barely fast enough to get it past there. Otherwise, I would have gone one shot. And then, yeah, another optimization I found a long time ago, I think this was in 2024. You can bounce off of this guy, and it plays around both of his attacks. But this bouncing off of that guy depends on you're making it through the previous stretch quickly, because otherwise his walk cycle will be a little bit different. So you got to make sure to get through the previous stuff quickly. If not, then unfortunately the backups involve losing a lot more time. You'd have to like, sometimes you have to wait underneath this hidden platform right here for him to walk back, so you have enough space to jump over him, and then you have to jump here instead of bouncing off of him. So it becomes very annoying time loss. Why is YouTube like this? Okay. I messed up the dash slides quite a bit there, but if you dash slide properly, you can dash through the enemy before it starts attacking you and stuff. And then for these armadillos, you have to just read what pattern they're doing. They can do one of two patterns. Typically, they do this like bounce, roly-poly attack. You can just dash, or sorry, you can just slide under them. It's not too bad. But you do have to like react. Like you have to wait for them to do their pattern. If they sit there and then charge at you, you have to jump over them. So make sure to keep that in mind. There's so many things to keep in mind on advance because again, so many things just one hit kill you. So, and it's not like advance is like slower in any specific regard because of the one shots. It's if anything, it's slower because you're doing less damage to the enemies since they have more defense. They have higher defense on advanced. So that's the main reason why it's slower. But yeah, for Silent Coast, this can probably be cleaned up more, but this is just what I've gotten accustomed to. Bouncing off this bunny is still pretty fast. And then want to go up and get the twins right ring because the time loss to go up and get it is much worth the time save it gives for the final two bosses. It just increases your attack. Who would have known that ends up saving time? So yeah, for Silent Coast strats, it's again, it's evolved over time. The strats I use right now are a combination of what I've seen Raba do and also just what I've done for some time with Moonlight. The main thing that I've changed about my strats for this is just bouncing off of this bunny here as opposed to wall jumping from this ledge, because wall jumping off of this ledge is so jank for some reason. So I'm actually glad that we have this bunny available to bounce off of as well. But still, the one thing I'm scared of is wall jumping, like clearing underneath this little platform here and wall jumping off of it. It's as jank as it looks because this platform unfortunately is not straight. So sometimes you won't even wall jump off of it and then you'll fall back down. I'm not worried about that when I'm like running. I just play and usually we're fine, but obviously it's something that can happen, so you got to be mindful of it. And again, backing up Silent Coast is super annoying because the bunnies all start grouping together and then you just get hit. So you wall jump and you want to make sure to hit the bunny above because otherwise it stays in your way, like as you're trying to climb up, right? Like it's literally in your way. So you have to like hit it so that it dives at you and then you get out of the way. And the main reason to use Moonlight for this is that you also deflect the projectile that thing sends out. It doesn't always spit out that projectile, but it usually does. So having the Moonlight is nice to deflect it. It's something that I like was more so using as like a beginner strat, but honestly, it's felt very helpful. And I think there's potentially broader applications available for it. Runic Guardian, not much to say. Main thing for Runic Guardian is that in order to get the quote unquote like fastest patterns, obviously you want to start attacking it right away. But as soon as you start see it doing its like spinning its lance, you want to immediately try to get to the other side of it. The sooner you get to the other side, the sooner you can start attacking again unimpeded, and you save more time by doing that. And obviously, you want to hopefully you want to hopefully kill it before it does the second like spinny rush. Unfortunately, I missed some crouch cancel attacks, so I didn't get that. And then big important thing is to open the map and then close it, as you saw me briefly do there. This ensures that the boat cutscene will trigger. Otherwise, the boat cutscene is wildly inconsistent, unfortunately. And trust me, this is like wisdom from runners that have run this game so much. And shout outs to Tateha Belmondu for finding that. That was truly a lifesaver for grinding this run, because it just drove us so insane that the boat cutscene was not working. There's a lot more to talk about for the boat. I guess I'll mention a few things here. So as you're like diving off of this ledge, I found the angle that you dive at to actually be pretty like reasonably significant, because there's like two ways for the boat cutscene to trigger. One where your dive kick like gets forcibly stopped by like the cutscene trigger barrier, and the camera like gradually pans to where the cutscene's about to happen, right? But in this like scenario, which is what happened in this run, this saves more time because the boat won't start prematurely moving. And then the problem with the boat prematurely moving is that it'll move before the lamppost is lit, or the light post is lit. And if it moves before the light post is lit, you won't necessarily get through the misty waters, because the game still thinks that, oh, it's the light post, or yeah, the light post is not lit, so it'll not clear out the mist in this area. It's so weird. But basically that's what happens in the other scenario. The other scenario is where your dive kick keeps going, but you cannot see where you are because the camera's slowly panning, and then the boat starts moving after, or like while you're still in the cutscene. And when that happens, because the boat started moving before the light post was lit, you have to turn around the boat just for a little bit amount of time. I think you don't have to turn it around such that it makes it all the way back. You just have to turn it around enough where, I believe it's like where the load zone will start, or the loader will start knowing which part to load. Like, will it load the infinitely scrolling misty waters, or will it load the clear skies so that you can make it across to Field of Hydro? So you have to turn around the boat briefly and then turn it back towards the right. And in that process, you have to make sure not to, or sorry, in that process, if you see that occur, you have to make sure not to like hit the bell here, because if you hit the bell, then it'll remove the light, and unfortunately that the game starts behaving very weirdly, and that's like a territory that I personally don't have a lot of experience in. I only have enough experience in that for when I've done runs of the wall, and even that's like not extensive experience enough to be able to tell you all the scenarios that occur when you hit the bell. There are some other runners that know more about it. Like I think Robbo knows a little bit about it too. So yeah, when you're here, it's best to just hold right, because the area loads at a pretty consistent time, but you don't want to like be on the other side of the boat and not exactly be ready for when it's time to enter or like step foot onto Field of Hydro. See, all this movement, this is like pretty good movement through this Field of Hydro, but it could have been better still. This movement is very hard though, so I don't want to like stress it too much. It's pretty much just making sure that you slide where there's down inclines, you dive land whenever you're landing from a higher height to a lower height, etc., etc. All right, and then yeah, for some reason I got a dive instead of a wall jump there. Game is just funny. What can I say? A more optimal pathing for this little section. I think actually nah. I think this is fine. Technically, I think strictly speaking, it might be just a little bit faster to jump up to this platform and then bounce off of this guy. But it's like also risky, because sometimes this guy can move ever so slightly to the left, and the bottom guy can also get in your way if you're too slow. But here's like the more important thing, and this was something I was discovering some time ago, is that when you come to this area of wall jump, instead of like the way we used to do it long ago, where we would get the shortcut from the other side on our first pass through Holy Grounds, and on our first pass we only have double jump, so you can't do this little wall jump scaling that we do here. But with wall jump, the way you traverse here is actually very different. And by the way, it is technically faster to traverse this part with wall jump than double jump, because if you come here later, come to this part later, then you don't have to get the shortcut, which means obviously you got to kill Valo on your first try. Otherwise, you're not going to save time. But for the fastest runs, you're going to be killing Valo on the first try. It's just that on advanced with no armor, she one-shots you on everything. So, yeah. Anyway, we scale along this wall, and then something I was finding is that even though there's like this jank invisible collision that this wall has, which is why at first it was pretty scary to use this wall to wall jump along, you can still safely jump off of it, air dash, and then double jump to hit this corner, and then that'll reset your air action so you can safely get over it without even triggering the aggro of this enemy. So it's great because if you go along this way, then you'll trigger the aggro of this enemy off screen, and then it can shoot icicles at you without it even being in the view of the camera. So very important that this traversal was found. And it could have been done faster here. I was just trying to like ready myself up for it, but yeah, it could have been done faster still. And then for this, you can just safely drop down. You can dive kick here as well, but because I didn't do a dash off of that ledge, I was still reasonably close to hitting the maximum fall speed already. So not dive kicking there didn't really lose that much time. And also by not dive kicking, you can you retain air control. So you can like weave through the books properly. Because they're not exactly below each other. Like one's not exactly below the other. For the Valo fights, Robbo did a lot of work in improving this fight. There were a lot of things I was not incorporating when I was new, and I pretty much just stole from him. And then the one thing that I think I mainly contributed to this fight was using exclusively crouch cancels for this boss. Because there was a long time where Robbo would not use crouch cancels at all for this boss, and then eventually you started incorporating it bit by bit. Crouch cancels are absolutely faster than anything else, but if you're not fast enough with crouch cancels, then it's still fine to use Rondo. Because at this level, you can use Rondo if you put the talent points into it. There's also a lot of dodges though that I was not doing initially, and then I started doing after a little while that were taken from Robbo. But I know Tam also put a lot of work into this fight, and I know that Tam was also my inspiration for getting better at fighting this boss in general. But I think where this fight stands right now, the fight I had in this run is one of the best like fights you can have against it. But most of it is just like with fast, most of it is due to just like fast crouch cancel DPS and good movement through its patterns. I lost time right here because it did one extra attack, but had it not done the extra attack, this would have been like one of the fastest Valos you can get, phase 1. The main thing to improve your Valo times is not even necessarily speeding up your crouch cancel attacks. It's fitting in more attacks in her vulnerable windows. The more time you spend attacking her and less time you spend like kind of standing away from her or dodging her, that's when you'll save more time overall, as opposed to even fast crouch cancels. But obviously, when you're already comfortable with like the windows in which you can attack her, then using crouch cancels at a faster tempo will save more time. And here we're attacking her in phase 2 despite her already taking damage over time, because it speeds up the damage over time process, obviously. So yeah, this was a good fight. Obviously stand in the corner for the end so that you can dodge this. Doesn't matter which corner really, as long as you're in one of the corners. Even if you're in the left corner, you'll still have enough time to make it to the other side before the barriers close. So you won't have lost any time. And then this exit here, the movement's pretty awkward, and also there's a degree of safety that's necessary to play with because, again, these enemies still one shot. So, I do want to improve the movement in this section a little bit, because I think in this run, there's definitely some time to be saved here. But in this little exit, this was actually like surprisingly good, because it's really tough to actually get out of this exact part cleanly. Sometimes this enemy will be slightly higher, and when you try to dive kick, you'll bounce off her head, and that'll cause problems. But this was actually surprisingly clean. Sometimes as well, if you're fast enough, you can dash through this knight, but I've never been bold enough to try it. because it feels unstable. But you can definitely dash through that one, no problem. Sometimes this one as well, but again, risky. And then just be mindful of the book's attack on the elevator. I've died to this before when I was newer, and it was tilting because obviously towards the end of the run, you know, the final stretch is just God's Hall and then Guider 2, and you die to that, then you got to go all the way back from the Holy Grounds tree. So the maneuvers here, let's talk about Sunken Sanctum a little bit. So Sunken Sanctum is a very tough section to do fast. The problem with Sunken Sanctum is that the cycles are actually very consistent if you move in the same way. And that can be a problem because moving the same way every single time is genuinely tough. There's some jank, again, with the collision of these platforms because it's underwater. So the nature of the game detecting that your feet are planted is much wonkier than even the areas that I mentioned earlier in the game. So the way I found to be stable is like you don't have to move in the exact same way for this method, but as long as you mostly get it, then you can get the correct cycles for the cubes to save the most time. And basically, obviously, you have to dash slide along the incline properly. And then for this platform, you have to dash and then let the recovery of the dash carry you into like further forward movement, because you can't like dash slide for this exact. If you started your dash off of this platform, I think even if you start your dash on this platform, it doesn't let you slide because it's just the collision is just so weird. So I missed it here actually, but you can see that it was still fine because I got the effect to be produced afterwards anyway. Basically, after you dash, it just like kind of carries you forward for some reason. I don't know why. It's weird. Like it's not like the typical dashes where you like stop after you dash. It like lets you carry you. It carries you forward if you're still holding right. So then you dive down here. You want to make sure, like to save the most time, you want to make sure to cancel the dive kick. You don't need to land. You cancel the dive kick with the weapon float so that you can get about here, bypass this cube. Even if the cube's actively attacking, you can still bypass it. But typically the cycle is such that it won't be attacking. And then for this one, you want to align yourself such that you're barely off the ledge here, and the electricity of this cube, the hitbox doesn't extend all the way towards this ledge. So even though it looks like it's visually touching you, it actually doesn't like hit you there. So you'll be able to just like dive down there. But you got to like the alignment is really particular. Like you got to basically be scraping against the ledge right here. And then this allows you to make this cycle. So even if this cube is still going, waiting for it is fine usually. But there you can see it wasn't going. And then this will allow this cycle of cubes to not be going, so you can just go straight past it as well. So even though the movement wasn't super clean, we still saved the most time that we could have for that section of cubes. But it's not over yet, because we have to get past the second section of cubes after we get the key to God's Hall. So this was not super clean either, but it was still good enough. And even if you get caught by this ledge here, you can see you can still proceed onward because the electricity doesn't touch you. Yeah, just keep dash sliding. Here's like the hardest one, I would say, to bypass. It's very particular. Ideally, you land on this platform right here, and your dash slide ends such that you get the slide effect down here. You can see I got the slide effect down. And even though it got cut short at the end of it, you're still at the exact right alignment of this ledge where you can just dive kick downwards afterwards and be outside the hitbox. And then for this one, it doesn't matter that, you know, you can't like bypass it in the same way as these other ones I mentioned. So it doesn't matter. You can just wait for it if the electricity's on and just jump past it. And depending on how long you have to wait, you'll either be on the left side or the right side. There, because I didn't have to wait that long, I was on the right side. But if you have to wait long, then you can just go to the left side and save some time. You're not really saving time because, again, you're waiting longer. But yeah. And then for this part, I like looking down to see where the cycles are, because I've not had like consistent timing to dive kick down, so I don't trust like, oh, that the previous cycles, I don't trust that the previous cycles went perfectly, so I just look down using the right analog stick. All right, and then the final approach to Guider 2, Guider of the Shadow Moon. This fight, shoutouts to Tam for I mean, I think I contributed a lot as well to how we fight her right now, but Tam definitely laid the foundation for the dodging that we do, especially for one of her most critical attacks to dodge correctly, which is the Pillars attack. Because the thing with the Pillars attack, that attack, if you dodge away from her, it sets up for her to do the triple projectile attack afterwards, and that one you can't like punish very easily. The window for attacking her during that attack is basically non-existent. So you just lose so much time successively if such a situation occurs. So the dodge we have for the Pillars attack basically allows you to thread the needle between the second and third pillar and get attacks on her while you're close to her to manip her out of doing the triple projectiles attack. So that was a very critical dodge found by Tam that allows for this fight to save lots more time than it did in the past. The other dodge that I contributed to was and I think I've contributed a lot to this fight that I think others haven't fully taken on still. It is tough to do, but I think it's very doable for other runners at their level right now. So, I mean, obviously she starts with the portals. That's great. Hopefully this is the only time we see her do the portals during this fight. That's the ideal scenario, where you've killed her fast enough that she does the portal like dash attack only once, this like diagonal stuff. The main structure I have for this fight, just I've had this forever, it's very subtle, is I always want to position myself such that Guider's attacking closer to the corner than I am. Basically, if she's doing like, for example, her portal teleport thing, I want it to be such that she's coming down from the top closer to the corner than I am. That way, if she does the triple full moon attack, I have enough space to just walk away from her and safely get longer attacks on her, like a longer string of attacks on her after that attack's over. Because otherwise, if you don't have enough space to run away from her, you have to hit this pretty tight jump and dash over her on the third attack, and it's pretty annoying to do that. Or you have to jump over her the first attack prematurely, and that's also hard to do because you have to be present in mind for it. And in both of those scenarios, you still end up being pretty far away from her by the time she finishes the 3 attacks, so you won't be able to get as much damage on her to follow up. I'll point it out when it comes up, but I'm not sure if it came up in this fight. Actually, no, it did. There we go. So you can see, I mean, this is not entirely in my control. She teleported towards that side, but theoretically it is, because she can only teleport in a direction where there's like less space, basically. Because I manipped, like on the previous attack, I manipped her to be towards like one of the corners, as we can see, right? For this portal strike. So I move towards the left and then back towards the middle so that I have enough space to like dodge to the correct side, right? And then boom, like simple dodge there, because I don't have to like do this tight jump and dash over her for the third part of the moon attack. And then same thing here. I'm manipulating her towards the corner where there's more space for me, less space for her. And because I did that, I can just walk towards the corner here and be very close to her after the third full moon slash to attack her. So very important stuff. And obviously, you can see here as well the triple pillars. The way we dodge this, and did I hit the dash slide? I did. Okay. So you hit the dash slide to make sure that the second pillar is far enough away from the first pillar so that you can just thread the needle between before the third pillar comes out. And then you'll end up close to her so that she doesn't do the triple projectile attack. Instead, she did the triple full moon, which was great. Now, unfortunately, there's some scenarios where she can still do the pillars attack while you have less space in the corner. And that's like just a worst case scenario. For that, the dodge you have to do is specifically to jump over her before the first pillar comes out. Otherwise, you just get guaranteed hit. And unfortunately, that means she can do the projectile attack. And you can see here, I actually missed a crouch cancel attack I messed it up. You can see I did a crouch attack there instead of a standing attack. So there I had to back up the dodge that Tam found for this pillage attack, which is the backup is fine, but you just got to be clean on your walks. You can't walk too far, but you do a slide away, and then you just like stutter step to make sure that the pillars don't like have perfect tracking on you when you're trying to walk back an attacker. But yeah, that was the run. This run was incredibly clean, by the way. This is probably personally my best executed run ever. Like legitimately. I hit almost all the early game time save. The finish was extremely clean. Look at how much time I saved just towards the end. The fights were great. Some of my best fights as well. Like this was just one of my best runs ever. And even out of all the runs that any runner has done, this run is definitely going to be hard to beat, but it's still very beatable. There's still lots of time save on this run. I'd say even though this run is close to my sum of best, like it's only 20 seconds off, these are my new splits where I don't have all my old data. I think 10 seconds can be chopped off this run without too much additional grinding compared to the level where I was when I did this run. Obviously, that's not the case right now because I have not been actively playing any percent. But if I were to try to shave off some more time from this run, 10 seconds can be saved for sure. On general movement, on hitting first try sequence break, and on some of the early game fights. But having that along with a clean late game is very tough. So this run is still going to be pretty out of reach for some time, but it's definitely beatable still. But yeah, I hope you found this 2-hour any percent overview informative. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments, of course, and I'll try to get all the information that's like a companion that can serve as a companion to this run in the description. See you all the next time.